Welcome to Land House. In this video, I am building a cart for my miter saw. It's going to have a wing that pops out and has a support piece. So if you're cutting something that is long and needs extra support, you can do that. It also comes with storage down below. So if you're looking to have your miter saw up high enough that it's easy access and has nice wings on the side, then keep watching. I have a Harbor Freight miter saw that is a 12-inch sliding saw, and it has been very good to me. I have cut thousands of boards with this, but sadly it's been mostly from a kneeling position. It's time to make a cart for this. To begin, I have got some very nice plywood, and I'm going to be finding the dimensions here of the top surface, which I know I'm going to be using bolts in here to keep this locked down on my cart. And so I want this to be 25-inch by 24-inch. So let's make that cut real quick. I only need 18 by 25, but I figure I can make this cart a little bit big and just not have to worry with any issues like that. And I think I'm going to actually go 25.5 to make sure I have plenty of room in that cart. I want the height of my new cabinet to be about 35.5 inches tall, and so I have measured the thickness of plywood is 3/4 inch, this is 3 1/4, and so I'm going to have this here, which is somewhere around 31 1/4 or so. This is going to be the side panel, so it is 2 feet by 31 1/4, and that should give me the height that I'm looking for here. I now have the top, the bottom, the middle shelf, and the 2 sides cut, which means it's time to put everything together. I'm going to be using the pocket hole jig. It's the Craig model, and if you've never used one of these, they are really fantastic. So I'm just going to place my board here in the jig, and then I'm going to lock it down back here. I'm going to use the jig to install some holes back here. Move it down and then do it again. For the 2 sides, I put 5 holes only on the bottom, and that will attach this to the bottom board. Now for the shelf and the top, I need to have holes on both ends here. So I've got them on this side, and now I'm going to be installing them here as well. Okay, it's now assembly time. I'm going to use some Tight Bond wood glue, and I want to put this, make sure that edge is clean first. I want to put this on this bottom side of the bottom board because the sides are going to be sitting on this. So anyway, let me just show you what I mean here. Put that, flip this up and set it along the side here. Now to make sure this is where I want it, I'm going to use some clamps just to hold this into place. Like that. To get these in, I'm just going to simply put them into place and then start screwing down. Now it's time to get the storage shelf installed. I'm going to come up here and let's see. I'm thinking about 14 inches here ought to do it. Match that up over here. I'm going to run a straight edge across here to help me keep that lined up correctly. Now, just like before, I'm going to be putting the pocket hole screws here, but this time it's going to be a little bit more difficult to keep the shelf from moving around, so I have to be careful to make sure it's locked into place. To get the shelf in, I've used this clamp, and I'm going to go ahead and put some wood glue down. The top of the cabinet was installed just like the middle shelf, except I have come down 2 3/4 inch, and that's because whenever the saw is set in there, I want to have a hinge that's going to stick up here and have a shelf that extends out for extra holding power whenever I am working with this. But we'll get to that in just a moment. I've let this wood glue sit overnight to make sure it is totally set up and cured, and now this box is nice and secure. Now, this is the base to the miter saw, and I want to have some wings on here that will come out and give me an extended cutting surface. So let us start working on those now. I've got a scrap piece of plywood here. It's a little bit more than 3 3/4 inch. And what I'm going to do with this is add a little extra piece up here to the top. It's going to be 10 inches. And this will bring out my hinges away from the side here. So I'm going to just cut this piece at 10 inches, and I will need 2 of those. It'll make sense here in just a moment. For the actual wings that flip up for support, I'm going to have 10 inches wide by 40.5 inches. So I'm going to just mark out 2 different sections of 10 inch here. And that will give me these wings. Now it's time for a very interesting cut. And this is going to be the support of the 2 wings on the side. I've got a 2 foot by 2 foot square here. And I'm going to match up one corner to the next and rip this into 2 triangles. So I'm just going to line that up. So when I cut that, it's going to be 2 different triangles. Now, I want to cut out a certain section of this. So what I want to do is come back 10 inches from the side. Sorry, 11 inches here. Okay, and then I want to go down 4.5 inches. And this is going to make sense here in just a minute as well. So 4.5. Make sure that's also squared up from the edge at 11. Yes, okay. So connect those 2. I'm going to come up 4 inches here. Connect that. Alright, so that right there is the piece I'm looking for. It's got this triangular piece with this extra bit down here. So let me cut this out and I'll show you what it's for. I've turned the cabinet so that the top side is now facing down. And I have these 3 pieces of wood here. This triangular piece with this 14 by 4.5 cut out. I've got this 10 inch board, and I think it's about 4 inches or so, you can see there. And then this one I had to cut at 10 inches by 30.25. And that's because I wanted to make sure that it would fit in this space here. Okay, so to get this assembled, I have some hinges I'm going to be using. Sadly, I did not buy the hinges that would not come loose. So as you can see, the pin here could come out if you tapped on it. But anyway, we can work around that. The first thing I want to do is take this 31.25 inch by 10 inch board and attach my hinges to the less pretty side, and that's going to be down here on this end. I'm going to move in 1.25 inches and get these hinges installed. And I'm just going to use the hinge itself to make sure it is squared off here. And I will know to put my screws in there. I attempted to install this in various ways, but found that this is the easiest one, is to get this board with the hinges on it first. For the next step, I have this board right here. It was the 4 by 10 inch. And I'm just going to get the hinges attached to that. And this is going to act as a spacer to get the wing piece away from the edge of the cabinet here. Now that I have this piece attached, it's time to get it installed on the cabinet. What I'm going to do is put it into a 90-degree angle here. And this is the reason the cabinet is upside down. It's so that I can match this up to the edge where I want it. And I'm going to use some 1 1/4 inch Torx screws to get this attached to the side of my cabinet here. I'm also going to apply some wood glue. Okay. Now this has the potential of holding a good bit of weight later on, so I'm just going to make sure I put a couple of these screws in here so that it's not going to be falling off. And now that will close just like that and open up flat for matching the surface on top there. The triangular piece is going to be used to keep that wing from falling down. And so I need to install the hinges onto the side here. And I'm just going to come down to approximately this area right here. And I do want to make sure that the pin here is going to be facing downward. So I'm going to match up right about there. I now have both sets of hinges on there. I can turn these pins around here just a bit. Now this piece needs to be very flat against the bottom down here. And I'm going to have to mark the hinge location on the back side here. Use my pin. Go ahead and mark that spot so I can get this started here. I'm going to go ahead and do a little pre-drill on this to make it easier to get these awkward screws in here. Alright, that should make it a lot easier just to get this started. Here's the concept of my design. When not in use, this wing will be folded down like this. Then, when you need to use it, that pops down, this will swing out, and then it's not going to be able to move, and you can use that to support longer material. So one last thing I need to do is make a stop for this board so that it will have some place so that this doesn't swing all the way out. So I'm thinking if I just put something right down here, a little block, then I should be good to go. Just cut this little 2-inch block here as a stop block. I'm going to dab just a little bit of wood glue on here. Something like that. Flip this over. Match up my stop line there. And I probably should do a little pre-drill on this to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. That ought to do it. And that will allow this piece to swing in freely and stop against that and not go all the way off the edge. I want this cart to be able to roll around, so I have some caster wheels that I'm going to put on the bottom. So let's get a drill bit real quick and make a hole that's this size. Keep in mind this is the bottom of the cabinet. I'm going to use my square here, and I've measured out the distance of this wheel. Oh, there you go, the distance of the wheel. And so I'm going to just make a mark here. Flip this over and match these up. And that's where I'm going to be drilling here. Now I found something crazy like a 13/64 or something. It's just ever so slightly smaller than the wheel itself. And I'm going to just drill a hole right there. Okay. And now I can take this and just start feeding it into that hole. And once I get it started, I can take a hammer and just get that set down into place. Okay, the time has arrived to see how well we've done. I'm going to see if I can slide this to the edge of the table here and set it down on the floor, and we'll see how it looks. Whew. Yeah, heavy. Two nice storage shelves down here. It is very mobile, which I do like. And then over here, hopefully what we can do is lift this up like such, swing this arm out, and that will lock down up under here against that block. And now we've got a nice level arm for cutting surface. So now the question is, if I bring the miter saw up here, of course I'm going to bolt it down to the table, but let's just see if I measured correctly or if I'm going to have to either bring this up or bring this up. So let's see. Now I figured that if one day I have a different miter saw, I could always just adjust the height here of the table to fit this, or a new one. Alright. Okay, so not exactly sure how I did this, but looks like I've measured at least 3/4 of an inch off from this height to here, which is no big deal. I was kind of expecting this to happen, so maybe if I had moved this up some. But what I can do is just add whatever height I need on this board on top to bring it up to that. And I gave enough space that if I was cutting something big, like 10 inch, I could come out here and it'd have plenty of table. So what I'll do is just measure, and then hopefully it's 3/4 inch, and I can just use that. Let's find out real quick. Maybe if I use a level. And then I can come back with maybe my square. Man, what a mess. Alright, so let me put you right here for a second. It is exactly 1 inch off. So that's pretty good. I can just rip down something to meet that requirement there. I'm going to be using the holes here in my saw to bolt this to the cart, and that will prevent it from moving around. And then I'll have to beef this up just a little bit. And because of the way it folds, this could be as thick as it needs to be and won't have any issues. It is even with that, so that's kind of nice. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about this cart. It's a little bit big, but if you can see, my miter saw is a 12-inch track miter saw, and so it is a rather large machine. So I'm probably going to be able to close this up and store it over here out of the way. But it sure will be better than having to kneel on the floor, because I was, for the past year, I've had this on the ground and it's been so annoying to just bend down and make all my cuts that way. So it'll be nice to have it here at a good level. I think I'm going to stop there for now. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and as always, thumbs up and share if you know somebody that could use a cart for their miter saw. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.